Next, we're going to give you a commercial real estate overview. Most of the time, we're going to find that a practice is going to be in one of four types of property buildings. You have an office space. This could be anything from like a multi-story office building downtown where you rent a space on the 38th floor or something like that. It could also be a standalone office building that you build from the ground up, or it could be even in like a professional park where you're in a condoed park and you're in with a bunch of other professional users, CPAs, attorneys, other healthcare providers. Second type of property would be a retail space, and this would be like if you're in a shopping center. Maybe you want to be in a high traffic, high visible location. You want to be next to or near a Chipotle or a Starbucks or a Target or something like that. You get the benefit of a lot of traffic, but there are some pros and cons that go into that, and we'll talk through that in a second. The third type of property would be a medical office building, an MOB. And medical office buildings are typically going to have they're going to be exclusive to other types of practices on the healthcare, medical, optometry, dental. A lot of times it might be hard to get an exclusive in a building like this because they're going to usually have 15, 20, 30, maybe even 50 different healthcare tenants. And then you have a hospital campus. So if you're in a building tied to a hospital, there's some synergy there that you can get, but there are also some pros and cons to both sides, right? In being tied to and being associated with a specific hospital. Let's talk through some of the pros and cons of each one of these four property types. The first that we kind of discussed a little bit in the last video is signage. Each one of these property types is going to give you a different signage opportunity. On an office building, let's say you're in a 100,000 square foot multi-story building. If you're only taking 2,000 square feet of that larger building, likely they're not going to give you space on the side of the on the outside, right? So if it's important for people and it's important for the vision for your practice for people to see your sign on the outside, you may not want to look at buildings like that. Even in a professional park, if you're in a professional park, a lot of times all the signs have to be the exact same. They have like an owners association, a condo association, and they're going to require that all the signs look the same. You might not be able to have it lit at night or have any neon signs if you want that, or you might not be able to have all the fonts you want or whatever, or colors, right? If you want a logo and you want some visuals that are very appealing, you may look at a retail location where you can have a lighted sign, maybe even on the pylon sign out front. A lot of places even have digital signs where you could have different logos coming up. And then on a retail building, you're usually going to have much better exposure on the actual building itself, maybe even in the window panes. Medical office building, again, and hospital campus, both of those, signage is going to be a little bit limited because you're going to have so many other tenants in that space. So you might get something on the placard and then something right there on your door, but you're likely not going to be able to have anything out by the road or the street or on the side of your building. What is the exposure, right? What is how much marketing am I going to have to do as a dental practice to make sure that people know where I'm at? What is the access? If I'm in a hospital campus again, is it easy for people to get in and out and find out where I'm at? Or if I say I'm right in the Target shopping center, right next to Target, or you say on First and Main, you're right at a signalized corner, two main streets in your town. That's great to be able to say. That's kind of a retail building. And your exposure there is going to be much greater. A lot of times I like to stand outside with my clients and if they're out by a busy street and there's a signal outside, I like to stand outside and wait for the light to turn red. And let's just see how long those cars end up sitting there and what kind of exposure do I get from those cars every single day, every single hour, every single day, every single week sitting there. What is the parking like? Is parking minimal? Is there plenty of parking? Is it a big shopping center? In a professional park, you might struggle with having enough parking because it's the Wild West. Everybody gets to park anywhere they want, and so parking is a big consideration when it comes to the type of real estate you're choosing. Amenities in a office building, in an MOB, a medical office building, a lot of times they're going to cover your janitorial. They're going to do your cleaning at night. They're going to cover your trash, and they might cover your utilities. Well, in dental, Water is a huge expense, right? If you choose a retail, like you're in a Target center or a shopping center, you're usually not going to get the landlord to cover your utilities or to cover janitorial. That's going to be on you as the tenant. Things like different costs that are associated. So you might be looking at different leases, and some are going to be all-inclusive. This is your all-in number, and some are going to be a base rent number, plus you have operating expenses. Those might be called triple nets, NNN, you might have seen, or operating expenses. Those are additional expenses that you're going to be paying. So there are costs and different costs associated with office versus retail versus a medical office building. Then again, what are the natural light opportunities inside the space? So if you're in an office building and the standalone building is yours, what kind of window lines, what kind of natural light do you get by having windows on all the different sides? You might have a vision for your practice where in every operatory, I want to have a window. Well, that's awesome. You're probably not going to get that if you go into a multi-story office building. You might get one side of windows, but you're not going to get 2 or 3 sides, right? So that's important to kind of take a look at. What are the window lines of each one of those types of property? And then is there any synergy with other tenants? I mentioned earlier in one of the other videos being next to a bar and a hookah lounge. That might not be great for an orthodontist, but you might find out that hey, I want to be around some other healthcare tenants or other healthcare users of space because there's a lot of synergy that I can get there. And so there are pros and cons. And again, it's really good and it's important in the game of real estate. Whoever has the most options wins. And so it's really important to look at multiple options. And I'd suggest even looking at a couple of different property types so you can figure out which type of property fits your vision the best. And so to recap, it's important to be looking at all the different types of property options that are available to you, the pros and the cons of each one, and what's available in your market. You might be in a market where there's really no retail availability of inventory. You might be looking only at office or medical office buildings or whatnot. But I would be saying, look at the vision for your practice and then look at how that matches up with what's available on the market. Have options. Be looking at a few. Negotiate with a few simultaneously. Be looking at a lease comparison, lease versus purchase analysis side by side so you can make the best decision for your practice. And lastly, additionally, even though COVID has impacted the market, there are some tremendous opportunities when it comes to real estate.